What happens when a white trucker tries to shove a quiet black man in a motel parking lot? He had no idea the man he pushed held federal power in his pocket. What happened next left the entire town speechless. Before we begin the story, write in the comments where you are watching us from. Let me tell you what went down that morning. It wasn't supposed to be a day worth remembering, just me, a raggedy motel parking lot, and a cup of gas station coffee that tasted like it had beef with my taste buds. I was driving cross-country off-duty, trying to clear my mind from the mess that life had been throwing lately. So, yeah, I was wearing my old blue hoodie, minding my business, and feeling like a civilian for the first time in a long time. I parked that beat-up Toyota between a semi and a pickup with a bumper sticker that said, "This truck don't dial 911. Classy. As I stepped out, the wind hit my face like it had a personal grudge. I held my coffee tight, that bitter burnt brew, and a trash bag I promised myself I'd throw out before it rotted a hole in the floorboard. That was my big mission of the hour. Find a trash can and get back on the road. But then I saw her. A woman, early 30s maybe, struggling with her car's trunk. She had a toddler strapped into a car seat, screaming like he just found out cartoons weren't real. Her keys were in her hand. Her patience clearly wasn't. That latch was stuck like a stubborn mule. She pulled, she yanked, nothing. Now I'm not the type to hover or get all up in folks' space. But this woman, she looked like she was one broken nail away from a breakdown. So I said what any decent man would. "Ma'am, want me to give it a shot?" She flinched. That part always stings. I've seen that reaction more times than I can count. Doesn't matter how calm your tone is or how soft you make your voice. Some folks still clutch their purse like you're a shadow with bad intentions. But she hesitated, then nodded. "It just won't budge." I put my coffee down, set the trash bag by the curb, and gave that trunk a solid press and lift move. It popped like a soda can on a hot day. She laughed in relief, muttered a thank you, and turned back to her kid. That's when I heard it. Boots. Heavy ones, stomping like they owned the pavement. A man's voice sliced through the air like a rusty blade. "You messing with my wife, boy?" Boy. Every syllable dropped like a brick of ice. I turned. There he was, 6 feet of chewing tobacco and bad decisions. A white man in a faded trucker vest with a jawline that looked carved out of spite. His name, I'd later learn, was Hank. But right then, he was just a storm coming straight for me. "Sir," I said, keeping my tone even. "I was just helping her with the trunk." It was jammed. "You touching my stuff, or you casing it?" His boots stopped inches from mine. The heat rolling off him wasn't from the sun. Before I could even respond, bam, he shoved me. Hard. My coffee flew, arched through the air like a sad little bird, and hit the pavement with a slap. The lid popped off. Liquid pooled around the cup like it was morning. Now, here's the part where folks expect the action hero move, the comeback, the punch. But I didn't flinch. Not because I'm made of stone, not because I didn't want to, but because I know what happens when a black man raises his voice, let alone his fists, in a place like this. So I just straightened my hoodie and looked him dead in the eye. You ever look into someone's face and see they're waiting for a reason to turn you into a headline? That's the look he had. Behind him, people started gathering, some with phones, some pretending they weren't watching. The woman stood frozen, her mouth open like she was about to say something, then didn't. I heard one guy from a nearby truck mumble, "Come on, Hank, he didn't do nothing." But Hank didn't budge. He leaned in, close enough that I could smell every bad decision he'd ever made. You think just 'cause you got manners, you belong here? I didn't answer, partly because I was weighing whether this man was really about to throw another punch, and partly because my hands were starting to twitch from the effort it took not to remind him I wasn't raised to be disrespected. And then, just to ice the cake, he spit. Not on me, but close enough. Real, classy move. A little punctuation mark on a sentence he thought he was writing with his chest. You know what's wild? Nobody stepped in. Oh, sure, they watched. They recorded. Some shook their heads. But not one person moved to put a hand between us. Because folks love a show, especially when they think they know the script. And in their heads, I was just some nobody. Just another boy with a hoodie and the nerve to be helpful. But scripts get rewritten all the time. What happened next changed everything. And trust me, you don't want to miss how this all unfolds. It's only just getting started. You ever feel the whole world slow down just for a second, like the universe takes a breath before it shows its teeth? That's what it felt like right after Hank spit near me. Not on me, mind you. Cowards rarely commit fully. But close enough to make a point. Close enough to make sure the folks watching knew who he thought the top dog was. And me? I was supposed to play the quiet mutt and walk away. Only I wasn't raised for that. Still, I didn't move. I didn't blink. And when I spoke, I didn't raise my voice. Because sometimes, control is the loudest sound in the room. You done? He blinked, not expecting that. That's the thing with men like him. They're built on reaction. They push, and when you don't fall, they stutter. But then, like clockwork, he doubled down. Oh, I'm just getting started. I could see his fist clenching, knuckles turning white like his pride. One step closer and he'd be in my pocket. But right then, the motel manager, short guy in a faded polo and a Bluetooth headset he probably wore just to feel important, came running out the front office yelling, "Sir! Sir! You can't fight on private property!" Not exactly a call for justice, but it bought us a beat. Hank threw his arms up. You letting him loiter? He ain't even a guest. I am, I said calmly, and reached into my pocket. Let me pause here. Now, in their story, this is where things get dangerous. Black man reaching, crowd tense, phones shaking. Every story they've been fed on the 6 o'clock news kicks in. But all I pulled out was a key card. Room 112. Registered under E. West. I held it up without a word. Manager squinted, checked the computer behind the desk. Oh, that checks out. And just like that, the fake concern turned into awkward silence. But Hank? He wasn't ready to back off. Pride don't shrink easy, especially not when folks are watching. So he tried another angle. What's your business here anyway? None that concerns you. Wrong answer for him. Right one for me. He stepped forward again, and that's when a hand landed on his shoulder. Not mine. A tall woman in a janitor's uniform. Big afro under her cap. Looked like she'd seen things and didn't scare easy. Her name tag said Mona, and she had that look like she'd cleaned up more than just motel messes in her time. That's enough, Hank, she said, low and sharp. Man didn't do nothing. You just mad he made you look small without even trying. His face twisted like sour milk, but her hand stayed right there. I don't need no woman telling me. You do today, Mona cut in. And lucky for you, I got more patience than he does. The crowd stirred again. Someone in a diner uniform muttered, That guy looks familiar. And that's when I saw the shift. One of the younger guys, tall, lanky, holding his phone like it was a microphone, stepped closer. Hey, Were you on the news? That raid in Georgia last year? You're that guy, right? Marshal something? The name hit Hank like a loose brick. He turned back to me, suddenly quiet, eyes searching my face like it was a police file he should have read. And still, I hadn't moved. Still hadn't raised my voice. But the air around me had changed. He felt it. Everyone did. I let it hang there a second longer. Then I spoke. I came here to rest, helped a lady open her trunk, threw away some trash, tried to drink some coffee. Pause. But since we're talking business, I slowly pulled out the other thing I'd kept tucked inside my hoodie. The ID wallet. Nothing fancy. Black leather, creased at the edges. I opened it, and the badge caught the light like it had something to say all by itself. United States Marshal Service. That crowd? Silent now. Not out of fear. Out of shock. I looked at Hank. His lips parted, but no sound came out. His whole body was frozen, like he just realized he pushed the wrong button on the wrong machine. Mona smirked. Told you. One of the truckers whistled low. Man's federal. A waitress muttered, That explains the calm. It's funny. All that rage Hank had just evaporated. No apology, no handshake, just a man suddenly obsessed with tying his boots like they held the meaning of life. And me? I tucked the badge back in. Not as a threat, just a reminder. A reminder that not every black man with a hoodie and a helping hand is someone you can shove without consequence. This is the turning point. Everything you've waited for, it's right here. And you'll want to see how the man who thought he owned the moment finally gets put in his place. Hank didn't say a word. His mouth opened once like he might, but whatever sentence he was cooking got swallowed down faster than a Pride sandwich. Man looked like he just realized he walked into the wrong church wearing the wrong colors on a Sunday morning. All that barking? Gone, like someone hit mute on his ego. Now, if you've ever seen a man try to pretend he didn't just humiliate himself in public, you'd recognize the shuffle. Shoulders stiff, eyes low, mouth twitching like it wants to argue but can't find the courage. That was Hank. I didn't need to press, didn't need to gloat. The badge had done what I needed it to do. But justice ain't always about a badge. Sometimes it's about what comes after folks find out who you are. Because see, moments like that, they stick. Especially in small towns where news travels faster than common sense. And right there, in that parking lot filled with styrofoam cups and dropped jaws, I watched the shift. Mona gave me a look, not the kind that needed words. Just a subtle nod. Respect. She went back to her mop bucket like it was her throne. The manager shuffled over, suddenly remembering what a backbone might feel like. Mr. West, I hope this misunderstanding doesn't affect your stay. I turned to him slowly. I was never here to stay long, just needed rest and a clean shower. He nodded like that answered a question he hadn't asked, then backed away like his sneakers were stuck in wet cement. But the part that hit different, the woman I helped, the one with the kid and the busted trunk, she came back. Quiet at first, like she was ashamed. Like her silence when Hank acted up had been an anchor she was still dragging behind her. I didn't know, she said softly. I looked at her. Not angry, just tired. You don't have to know a man's title to know he deserves respect. She swallowed, eyes wet. You're right. Her kid, still fidgeting in the car seat, reached toward me with a juice box. I chuckled. The innocence of children, man. They don't see uniforms. They don't see race. They just see people. He got better manners than half this parking lot, I said, taking the box and handing it back gently. Then came the cameras. Not news crews. Nah, just locals with TikToks and Instagrams. The kind who film a man being pushed, but not the part where he breathes through it. And now? They were crowding with curiosity, hoping I'd say something worth likes and shares. So I gave them this. I didn't ask to be disrespected. I didn't invite conflict. But I stood still. And sometimes that's louder than shouting. I let that hang in the air, turned, and walked to my car. Not rushed, not dramatic, just done. But fate, oh, it ain't subtle. Just as I opened the door, a sheriff cruiser rolled into the lot. Clean white paint, gold lettering, and a deputy stepping out who looked like he'd seen the aftermath but not the build-up. He walked straight to Hank. "Sir, we got a couple calls," he said, voice tight with that official tone. "Want to tell me why your name's being mentioned on 6 witness reports?" Hank stumbled over his words. Something about misunderstanding and just protecting his wife. The deputy's eyebrow lifted. "She needed protection from him?" he said, pointing in my direction. That was the nail in the coffin. The deputy walked over to me, extended a hand. "Marshal West. We good here?" I shook it firmly. "We're good." But that's when I saw it. A kid. Maybe 17, lean build, hoodie up, phone in hand, standing behind the cruiser, staring at me like I was made of fire and steel. "You really a marshal?" he asked. I nodded. He looked down at his phone, then back up. "That's wild, man. Folks need to see this. All of it." And just like that, I realized the real moment wasn't the badge flash, wasn't the shove. It was the fact that someone like him saw someone like me stand tall and walk away clean. Because no matter how many times the world tries to push us down, someone's always watching how we stand back up. I drove off with the windows down, the air finally feeling like mine. That gas station coffee still haunted my taste buds, but the silence in my chest, that felt like justice. And Hank? He stayed behind, surrounded by his own story, finally realizing that not all boys are boys, and some men carry more than what meets the eye. Sometimes justice doesn't scream. It doesn't swing fists. Sometimes it just stands its ground, says nothing, and lets the truth speak louder than any shove ever could.